Yeah.
Okay, I have a loud voice, and I think I'm louder than the microphone. I'm at home. Let me get two things out of the way. First of all, Count Conlon knighted me, so I'm wishing everybody happy St. Patrick's Day. I have my green pen, and I don't know if the green beer is flowing or not. We shall enjoy this moment. And where did Tom go? I just saw him. Last time he saw me, I was in the hospital having a knee replaced, and he didn't. This is a woman's thing. When you're in the hospital, it's very hard to be a diva, laying in the hospital bed. And so I'm laying in the bed, and in comes Tom Conlon, want to verify that I was definitely in the hospital. You can call me, Tom. But I'm now walking, so I'm okay. Bill started out talking about the federal budget, and we've heard nothing but voice of doom from the federal as well as the state and as well as local. So we might as well get with it. It's real. Kasich is not playing. He has already started his journey on slicing up what he doesn't want to be there, as well as the federal government and the city. Let me talk more about the federal government. The Community Action Agency receives about 80% of the funding from the federal government. Some would say, I believe that if we were leveraging dollar for dollar that we were sending to the federal government, our tax dollars go to the federal government, and our task get as many of those dollars back working into our community. And we did it one-on-one. And what it did, it kept us out of the local market. We didn't have to compete with other charities against other agencies. That's why Contact and everybody else would go ahead and do their work, because you didn't have us in that pot trying to take dollars out of that pot. So we went on and stayed with the federal, bringing in the dollars from the federal government. For the first time in the history of a State of the Union address, President Obama said, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but basically, the federal government's going to have to cut even those programs very dear to my heart, like the Community Action Program. And you can imagine some of my colleagues that were privileged to be in the galley there. I mean, you could pick them up off the floor. Could not believe it, because he cut his teeth on community activism and organizing and using these programs. So, of course, it surprised all of us. But it shouldn't be a surprise, because, first of all, the most vulnerable voter happens to be the non-voter. And that's children. Many of them are children, women, families that are not there. They're disenfranchised. This year alone, we served over 45,000 individuals, and many of them were first-timers. You saw men and women laid off of their job, foreclosed in their homes, and all of a sudden they're standing in line. And this was like a deer getting caught in the headlight. I mean, wow, what am I doing here? Our agency was able to change to meet their needs in terms of focusing more on economic development, job opportunity, job readiness, job training, and job placement. So we also help with mortgage payments, but that was basically to get people back going again. But let me just share with you where the federal government's at. When you look at the social human service budget, and unfortunately, I thought we have an individual that heads the department, and that's Kathleen Sabalas, who is one of our own, and hasn't spoken up at all about our needs, and it surprised me. Hasn't spoken or stood up at all. But when you look at the total budget, if you put 100 pennies on the pinwheel, we're 2 pennies of the whole federal budget. So if they're thinking about balancing that federal budget, they're starting at the wrong end. They need to be starting at those entitlement programs. And, we're talking about defense, sorry to say this, but Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, all of the programs that are entitlement programs. They need to really look at that. But more importantly, they need to look at how to cut their own budget. And when I say that, they have a department for everything. If you have an earache, they got their own department for earache. Whatever it is, they got a department. They need to consolidate, merge, and do the things they've been telling us to do. So you can see the way. I went there for a whole week and had a chance, and I'm going to name them off and give you my evaluation of the meeting. I did something that I've never done before. I took all my Republican friends with me, number one. I took my bankers, I took everybody that was Republican and said, "You're going with me to lobby." And they said, "No problem." And they went, they came, they flew in, and they were right there with us. And so we got a chance to talk with each one of the legislators just to get their spin on what's happening here. First one we started out with was Jean Smith. And Jean Smith, believe me, was so engaging. She had the couch pull out off of water. She was so engaging. And the one thing she said, she said, "Gwen, remember I did come to your agency and I know the work that you do. I respect it, I appreciate it, and I am not going to let draconian cuts happen to the budget." Surprised all of us. It was almost like, what did we say? So my other friends started talking about tennis and running a marathon in New York. But she was really uniquely prepared for our meeting. It surprised us, it caught us off guard, but it was a good, compelling experience. She was very much aware of everything, but the bottom line is we do have to cut. We understand that. No one's saying don't cut. But we're talking about how deeply do you cut is where our concern lies. If we go too deep, we're going to harm an entire network. You're going to harm an entire group of people that will never get back even more. She was right on par. She knew things, and she even asked me for some solutions. I gave her my thoughts, and she was very supportive. Second meeting, we went to John Boehner's office. First of all, when you go in there, it's dark. They're conserving on energy. So it's dark in there. His office smells smoky. He does smoke in there. But it was dark. We're sitting in a dim-lit office. And the young lady that was meeting with us said he was very busy and he couldn't come meet with us. So we said, okay. And we did our spiel. We're asking for cut our budget back to 2008. Take us back to 2008. We can take that cut. That's several $1 million that you can take away. Our agency would lose almost $15 million. So if you take us to 2008, $15 million is better than losing 30 or 40 million. She just kept looking. No writing, at least in Jean Smith's office, her staff person was taking note. She didn't take a single note, not one. And finally, and here my friends were trying to elicit some kind of reaction from her, and we couldn't, from him, from his aide, couldn't get it. Finally, I turned to her, I said, does Boehner have a hot button? And she looked at me, I think he likes kids. Yeah, I think he does. He goes to their school. So that should tell you something. He's on point, he's on par, that's where he's going to be, and he's not going to move off of that. The next stop we went to was Steve Shabbat. And Steve Shabbat listened, what was interesting, because he was surprised at the group that we brought. Because one of them was Hispanic. And talked about, I'm from the West Side, I'm very conservative, but I know the works of this organization. But he listened, he talked, he shared, and it was a long, wonderful meeting. And when we finished, he said, "Gwen, don't sweat for a year. It's going to take us a year to get through this. It's crazy." And he said, more importantly, the Tea Party don't get it, and they're really holding us hostage. So we said, thanks, needs to hear that. And then we went to Portman's office. And if you know Portman is the man of the heart. I mean, he has passion about him. And I met him in the airport where I was flying in, so I did all my talking with him in the airport. So he gave us a staff person because just as we were coming in, he got called for a vote. But they did allow us to use the Senate train to get over to the other side. And I'm going to be meeting with him here in the office. I also went and had a chance to talk to Danny Davis with Chicago, Illinois contingency, because I'm formerly from Illinois, and I talked with some of them. They are quite interesting. You either, the Democrats talk with one voice, they're all on one side, the Republicans talk with another, and they wouldn't allow their agency to even meet with them. So I felt fortunate that at least our representative did say, come on in. You would be surprised, Kentucky and Illinois representatives said don't bother to set up any appointments with me. And I thought that was kind of a unique and different position for legislators to take. But all in all, if you go there now, it's not the best moment. It is not the best moment. And we do have to cut. We do have to make some solid changes. But our legislators need to hear from us. They need to know we're here. That's what they're not getting. They're not getting feedback. They're not getting one-on-one time. They're trying to walk at one block, but you can bust that block up because when it's all said and done, they got to come back here and run again. And so they need to hear from us. And that's the word I've really been sharing with everybody, is that you really need to get out and you really need to talk with the legislators. There's a lot of people here who really are using all kinds of services, but you may not know it. But I bet everyone in this room can know someone that lost their home or lost a job. You know somebody. And those are the people that are going to be hurt the most. If